14 minutes after 8 o'clock as we go to film school. Bring in my good friend Joe Fortunato with us, film study professor, University of Arizona, University of Akron, and takes us to film school here on WAKR. All right, Joe. Hey, Joe, before we get going, I saw you were at, you went up to Browns camp on Tuesday, is that right?
Yeah, I was at training camp on Tuesday.
How was everything there? Good?
Everything's good. It was a beautiful day for camp. The Browns do a wonderful job putting the camp together for families. There's a lot of stuff for kids, and it's just a wonderful event. I'll probably be going up there a couple more times before camp is over.
Yeah, their next open practice, by the way, I think is coming up Sunday afternoon with the open practice, and the Browns got the win last night at Tom Benson Stadium, huh?
They did, and I'm excited to say I'm going to be going to see Joe Thomas's induction tomorrow as well.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be pretty special. The parade, by the way, begins roughly 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Well, Joe, you're going to take us back here. This is one of my favorite movies. It's a stopper for me, or we like to call remote dropper, when I have this thing going through the television, and that's The Fugitive from 1993. I just think this is a terrific flick, and looking forward to what you have to tell us about going to film school with The Fugitive.
Well, it is a great film, and it's came out. We're celebrating its 30th anniversary this week. Boy, time flies, doesn't it? It came out August 6, 1993. It was directed by Andrew Davis, written by Jeb Stewart and Dave Towie. Of course, it stars Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones and Celia Ward. It won an Oscar for supporting actor for Tommy Lee Jones, and it had 4 other nominations, including Best Picture, which is interesting because, at least to this date, it's the only remake of a regular television series to be nominated for Best Picture. Some sharp-eared listeners might say, well, wait a minute, what about Marty? Marty was a TV movie. 12 Angry Men was a stage play on television. So we're just talking about a regular TV series, The Fugitive from the 60s. This is probably the most successful remake or reimagining of a TV series ever to make it on film. Now, ironically, Harrison Ford had never seen a single episode of The Fugitive. He said he was attending college at the time, and he watched very little television. But it was a very successful film. It was the 3rd highest grossing film of 1993. With $193 million domestic, and of course that's $1993, $368 worldwide. It's Harrison Ford's highest grossing film outside of either Star Wars or Indiana Jones. So very successful for him. Sort of ironically, Harrison Ford passed on Jurassic Park to make this film. So he would have been successful either way, I suppose. Probably Jurassic Park might have been his highest grossing film outside of that. One of the great set pieces of the film, as people probably remember, is the train crash, the locomotive crash that sort of springs Richard Kimball free. And ironically, it was actually cheaper, if you can believe this, to use full-size locomotives at around $20,000 a piece rather than creating a crash using miniatures, which you would think would be much easier and much cheaper, but such as the cost of special effects. Because the budget was so tight, they couldn't rehearse that scene, and as you might imagine, if you're crashing real trains, you get one shot at it. That's what they did. That train wreck and the bus remain a tourist attraction in Dillsboro, North Carolina, where they shot that scene.
Joe, the one thing that I'll say about this movie, and I don't know if I ever say this because I think Harrison Ford is terrific in everything, and I think he's great in this movie. But this is one of those rare movies that I thought Harrison Ford was really, really good, but I thought Tommy Lee Jones, every time he got on the screen, you wanted more. And I thought really he, to me, was great in the film.
Well, he won Best Supporting Actor. Obviously, he was great, and so his peers thought so as well. And he actually didn't really want to do it, or not that he didn't want to do it, but he was just sort of like lukewarm because no one's ever going to see this movie anyway. And, of course, it ended up winning him an Oscar. Now, it was his famous line where Richard Kimball says, "I didn't kill my wife," and he responds, "I don't care." That was not written. The original line as written was, "That's not my problem." But Tommy Lee Jones ad-libbed or requested, "Hey, I don't want to say I don't care." And of course, he read it so well. In fact, both of them, Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, improvised a lot of their scenes. The role, we always like to talk about casting. Talking about that role of Sam Gerard, that Tommy Lee Jones got. Mm-hmm. Some others that were considered were John Voight and Gene Hackman. I think Gene Hackman might have done pretty well. Mm-hmm. Kurt Russell, Mel Gibson, Jack Nicholson, all were sort of in the mix for that. When we always mention these casting, of course, usually it's everybody who's, the it person in Hollywood at that time is always considered for these kinds of things. At one point, Walter Hill was supposed to direct the film, and he ended up not. But he wanted Nick Nolte. And Nick Nolte said, "I'm too old for action movies," and didn't do it. Michael Douglas was considered for the role of Richard Kimball in the early production stages. Some other big names, again, all the big names at the time, Kevin Costner, Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin was genuinely considered. Jeff Bridges, Michael Keaton, Christopher Reeve, all considered for the role of Richard Kimball. But my favorite potential casting choice, Arnold Schwarzenegger, was considered for Richard Kimball. And of course, Arnold was one of the top movie stars in the world at the time. I don't think he would have been right for this, but you wonder what might have happened. Julianne Moore, sometimes people forget, had a brief role in this, a very small role, and it landed her an interview with Steven Spielberg, which then she ended up getting her the role in the Lost World Jurassic Park sequel.
I thought, too, getting Celia Ward, and she was, on screen for maybe the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie, but to get a star like that to play the wife, I thought was pretty big as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting about that first 10 or 15 minutes of the movie. This did win an Oscar, was nominated for an Oscar for Best Editing. When I used to teach screenwriting, I used the beginning of this movie to show how, because I had a copy of the original script. In the original script, it's all linear. I mean, if you remember in the movie, the opening is sort of a cut montage of going back and forth to what happened, kind of getting us up to speed of how his wife was killed. Not a spoiler since it's in the first 10 minutes, but I used to use that in my class to show that, hey, it was written one way, but then it was edited a whole different way because they thought it was better for the story. So it's also an instructive film as well.
Great film, 1993's The Fugitive, Film School with Joe Fortunato. Hey, Joe, before I let you go, speaking of work, you've got some online stuff happening this weekend. Yeah,
I do. I'm excited to say I have another online Fortunato Film School coming up next week, and this is absolutely free. So, and we are going to be doing E.T., the extraterrestrial. This is Monday and Tuesday of next week, and the easiest thing to do if you're interested in this, it is free, but you do have to register so you can get the Zoom link sent to you. The easiest thing is probably just to go on Facebook and search for Fortunato Film School. It's a public event, so it should pop up, and that'll have all the details and the link that you can click on to register. And for people who don't know what we do when I do that, we're going to watch the whole film together. I'll do commentary on the whole film. So if you like E.T. or love Spielberg, you'll want to check that out, and I think you'll enjoy it.
That's Monday and Tuesday, right?
Correct. It's a two-part class. We'll do half the movie on one day and the second half on the next day.
All right. Great stuff. Joe, as always, my friend, thanks for making time with us. Great pick today with The Fugitive, and you can go back and listen to this at WAKR.net. Joe, thanks for the time, my friend.
Thanks, Ray.
All right.